Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the York City Planning Commission to order. May we have a roll call?
Johnson,
Here.
Velez,
Here.
Burgos. Here. Davis. Absent. Wolf.
Here.
Gaines is excused.
It's noted that we have a quorum. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting? If so, are there any changes? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who seconded it?
May we have a roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez,
Aye.
Burgos,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Zoning Hearing Board was emailed. Everybody have a chance to review them? Any questions? Any unfinished business?
No.
Our first case tonight is 7.11, 278, 280, 282 Cottage Hill Road. First, we'll hear from staff, and then we'll ask the applicant to step forward.
Okay, so this is just a subdivision. The owner would like to take three parcels and divide them into four, and he plans on building on them upon approval of the subdivision. If I remember correctly, he plans on building four multifamily homes. Yes, four multifamily homes on that.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Tom Englerth. I'm with Site Design Concepts, and I apologize I don't have a board with me here tonight. I was coming from Gettysburg, thought I'd get to my office, but ran into some traffic. I believe you have full-size copies up there. This is a very simple project, but at the same time somewhat unique in that the one property was used. The RDA used land bank money to do some demo on the one property. The other two properties were vacant. However, there had been impervious surfaces on them. These lots run from Cottage Hill all the way back to the alley. There's three parcels. The developer who is in sales agreement with the RDA to purchase these is actually looking at putting two duplexes on this site. They are going to be small in nature. They're going to be, I hate to use the word affordable, but attainable in price. And he's trying to keep the cost down so that he can make them that way. They're going to be 800 square feet each, a duplex facing on Cottage Hill and a duplex that faces back to the street in the rear. There'll be a line right in the middle that divides those. I believe the lots meet the required area, and the units will require a building permit.
Also, just to state too, is that's why you have the most recent drawings, which shows that they are meeting the setbacks when they build so they didn't have to go through zoning because they are meeting everything for the zoning purposes for the setback.
No, we do not. I think they're all administrative in nature. I think they wanted to see a setback on the sides. We put those on there.
So their response to the review questions was included in your package.
If this is approved, what is your possible timeline?
He's going to move as soon as possible. He calls me every day wanting to know when this is going to be approved. So
Kind of anxious.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll probably need to have a pre-construction meeting, probably.
He's got to get through council yet, obviously, and then he's got to get building. I don't know if the building has been submitted or not.
No.
I don't think they have.
If they have, they're on hold, but I don't think so.
I know they're in the works, and he's gonna submit those. I explained to him that he couldn't get the building permit until he had the land, until he had the subdivision plan approved. But the city is usually pretty good about receiving building plans. Prior to those plans being approved, they just they'll do the review and hold the permit until the land development or the subdivision gets approved, and then issue the building permit. It's a big time saver for the developers.
And Tom, also let him know that city council is out till July 16th.
I let him know that.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Hearing none, is there anyone from the public that would like to address this case? Hearing none, do we have a motion to recommend or deny the subdivision plan?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the subdivision plan to subdivide 3 parcels into 4 per section 1333.03 for the properties at 278, 280, and 282 Cottage Hill Road.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos. Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Case 21-2024-Z-SE-V, 637 West Princess.
Hello, good evening. I'm here for 637 West Princess Street. I apologize for my appearance. I came straight from work. I don't have anything with me. But to talk about the property is, I'm good. Ryan Beck. Oh, my fault. Yeah, I forgot. It's been a while since I've been in here.
Okay, 637 West Princess Street, applicant Ryan Beck, 440 Sherwood Drive, Dover, PA, 17315. Owner not listed on application. It's in the UN2 Urban Residential Neighborhood District. The summary applicant would like to convert a single-family dwelling into a 2-unit multifamily dwelling. Variance appeal 1, the applicant seeks a definition variance since the proposed use does not meet the ordinance requirements of conversion from industrial, institutional, or commercial. The property is a single-family home. Staff has reviewed the variance provision in 1311.10.d. Therefore, staff recommend denial of a definition variance to allow 2 units for the property at 637 West Princess Street. Variance appeal 2, the applicant seeks a dimensional variance since the proposed density is less than permitted by the zoning ordinance in this district. Staff have reviewed the variance provision of 1311.10.d and finds the property is big enough for the proposed 2 units. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the dimensional variance to allow 2 apartments for the property at 637 West Princess Street. Variance 3 appeal. The zoning ordinance requires 3 off-street parking spaces for the proposed 2 units. The applicant can provide only 2. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces. Staff have reviewed the variance provision 1311.10.d and finds that the property does not have unique physical circumstances or conditions that warrant relief from the requirement 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Therefore, staff recommends denial of a variance to the minimum number of parking spaces required for a multifamily dwelling for the property at 637 West Princess Street. Special exception for the use. Zoning ordinance permits multifamily conversion from a different use by special exception in the zoning district in 1304.1.1.02.002. Staff has reviewed the special exception provision for this property. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request for the special exception to allow multifamily dwelling for the property at 638 West Princess Street, pending all variances are approved. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Could you give us some more information on what you're planning to do here?
So I'm just planning to basically conform the property to what it really originally is. So this property had all original split drain systems, cast iron drain systems that showed that it was kind of like a 2-unit from the start. This property also had 2 electrical meters separated, and they've been separated for over 20 years. It has 2 separate heating systems that are also separated over 20 years. It had originally 3 gas meters. This property, I believe, operated as a 3-unit back in the day. It also has a 3rd floor entrance or egress as well. So each floor has its own egress from the 1st to the 2nd to the 3rd. This property, when I purchased it, was operating as a 2-unit, and I'm not sure if things got mixed up or something along the way, or the owner had converted to a single family for a loan purpose. But in all actuality, I didn't really do anything except for cosmetic repairs to this property. I don't have to do any alterations or remodeling, just strictly renovations to conform to this property. And alongside, you have a 2-unit to the right and you have a 2-unit to the left. It conforms with the neighborhood, and across the street adjacent, those are all 2 units as well. So, and as far as the rear of the property, it does have the 2 full parking spots, which a lot of the 2 units, they do not have, not because they don't have the space, it's just because they don't have the applicable yard use, or they fenced it in, or they just are misusing their property.
So let me understand, when you purchased the property, you purchased as a 2-unit?
It wasn't zoned as a 2-unit, but it was being occupied and split as a 2-unit. When I came, they listed it as a 2-unit, and they kind of caught me because I've been dealing with these sellers for a long time. They're a wholesale company. You could say what you want about them, but they were pretty honest. So I didn't really look too further deep into the listing and everything like that. But yes, it was being operated as a 2-unit, and it when you go in, it looks like a straight 2-unit. And I have many 2-units, I've sold a lot.
So the 3rd floor has its own exit in the rear?
Yes, it does. So it has a flat rubber roof, and the 3rd floor has an exit, which it has a railing, up to code railing with the, I forget the type of brand. It has the special fire mats, so you can walk out on the 3rd floor as well. So it has everything up to code. Then it goes to a door, which then goes straight down to the outside. I don't know if I took pictures of that or not, but what really sticks out to me is the heating systems. That's great, whatever. But the cast iron drain systems are original. And they also have, I missed one important thing, they had original gas lines running to the 2nd and 3rd floor. And they were split, you could say either for laundry, but there was also additional ones that was running to where the kitchen is as well. And those are all original. So there was an original kitchen on the 2nd floor, as original kitchen on the 1st floor, and it was a gas lines going up to the 3rd. And no, they weren't for the old school gas lights that they had.
So if you provide a 3rd unit, what are they going to use for cooking, electric or?
I'm not doing anything for the 3rd
Oh, I
unit.
thought you
I'm
were.
just saying that originally there was a 3rd unit.
Oh, okay, that's my misunderstanding.
Yes.
Any questions? Anyone from the public that would like to address this case? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the variance for definition?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to the definition of a multifamily conversion from a different use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002A for the property at 637 West Princess Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? May we have a roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez,
Aye.
Burgos,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for dimensional variance?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a dimensional variance for multifamily conversion from a different use found in section 1304.01-1.02.002 to include conversion of a single-family home into 4 units for the property at 637 West Princess Street in the UN2 zoning district.
Second.
Your motion says 4 units. Is that correct or incorrect?
It's 2.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2 units.
I amend my motion. Just read it as it was.
Does the second accept?
Second.
May we have a roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for variance to required off-street parking?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to the required off-street parking spaces found in section 1304.01-1.02.002 for the property at 637 West Princess Street.
A second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for special exception?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a special exception to allow multifamily use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002 for the property at 637 West Princess Street.
A second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Case 22-2024-Z-SE-V, 602 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, property address 602 Pennsylvania Avenue, applicant Francisco Scroggins. 602 Pennsylvania Avenue, owner is the same. He's an RS2 single-family attached residential conservation district. Summary, applicant would like to convert a single-family dwelling into a 2-unit family dwelling. The applicant seeks variance appeal 1. The applicant seeks a definition variance since the proposed use does not meet the ordinance requirements of conversion from industrial, institutional, or commercial. The property is a single-family home. Staff has reviewed the variance provision of 1311.10.d. Therefore, staff recommend denial of a definition variance to allow 2 units for the property at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue. Variance appeal 2, the applicant seeks a dimensional variance since the proposed density is less than permitted by the zoning ordinance in this district. Staff have reviewed the variance provision in 1311.10.d and finds the property is big enough for the proposed 2 units. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the dimensional variance to allow 2 apartments for the property at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue. Variance appeal 3, the applicant seeks a variance to the special exception condition that the property has not been vacant for 2 years of section 1311.11. Subsection C, therefore staff recommends approval of a variance to the special exception condition of the property being vacant for 2 years for the property 602 Pennsylvania Avenue. Variance appeal 4, the zoning ordinance requires 3 off-street parking spaces for the proposed 2 units, and the applicant can provide only 2. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces. Staff has reviewed the variance provision in 1311.10.d and finds that the property does not have unique physical circumstances or conditions that warrant relief from the requirement of 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Therefore, staff recommend denial of a variance to the minimum number of parking spaces required for a multifamily dwelling for the property at 602 Pennsylvania Ave. Special exception 1, use. The zoning ordinance permits multifamily conversion from a different use by special exception in the zoning district in section 1304.1.1.02.002. Staff has reviewed the special exception provisions for this property. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request for a special exception to allow multifamily dwelling at 602 Pennsylvania Ave pending all variances are approved.
Good. Yes, my name is Teneta Alvarez.
Sequus Groving.
Yes, so the situation that's going on here is that when Mr. Francisco purchased the property back in 2021, he believed he was purchasing a 2-family property. If you walk in through it and you see it, it looks like it's just like a 2 double-family property. Turns out afterwards when he was going through to get meters and like the electricity and all of that squared away. Turns out that one of the previous owners may have converted the property into a multi-unit without going through the due process in the city. This brings us to the point where he hasn't rented the property at all. He has not made any, he's tried to do everything, you know, the correct way possible to just get it into a multifamily so that he can go ahead and rent it. It does have piping for gas, but it doesn't have the meters. The electricity is the same situation going on also. So as Mr. McMillan had stated, he can provide 2 off-street parking spaces. We have attached pictures towards the back of the packet, and it's clearly evident that it has double kitchens. The first floor is an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment. The second and third floors is an apartment that has 3 bedrooms. That is correct. El miro que está en la parte de atrás es eléctrico, ¿verdad?
Sí, eléctrico.
Yeah. So when he started going through the process to divide the meters, that's when he was informed that the property was never actually converted to, you know, with the city to a multifamily. There is gas piping, but only one gas meter. Correcto. But it's a little bit odd because they do pay 2 water bills and trash bills also. It is.
2 años de hermano que tenemos aquí pagándolo todo el tiempo agua y eso.
Correct. He just made a comment and said, you know, they've been paying all of the utilities for 2 years and they haven't rented the property out. La puerta que está por parte de atrás, que tiene 2 salidas.
Sí,
Entonces-
los dos, el apartamento de abajo y el de arriba tienen 2 salidas por atrás.
Both apartments have 2 exits. So one towards the, out the back.
The second floor, yeah,
That's for the second floor. It is. They've done a very good job keeping the place tidy.
Good evening. My name is Dan Gladfelder. I live at 622 Pennsylvania Avenue, 3 doors away from this said property of 602. My issue with this is I'm sorry that somebody didn't do due diligence ahead of time to find out if it was rentable as 2. Previous owners illegally using it as a 2-unit apartment. That's why it only has 1 gas meter, 1 electric meter. As far as water and trash, I don't know how you can be paying 2 bills when it's only a single-family home. I own a rental unit, and I do only pay 1 bill because the landlord, the owner, pays for the whole building. So my only biggest issue with this is parking. As in the last person at 637 West Princess, they couldn't provide off-street parking for the number of people that were going to live there. Parking in the city is the biggest issue here. And this same particular house, when there was somebody living on the first floor, kept parking constantly on the corner so that you can't see off of West Street there to make a left or a right. City had already backed it up one spot, and still people were parking there where there's clearly signs that say no parking from here to the corner, or whatever that says. It's the biggest hassle in the city is parking. That's why I don't want to see it. So nobody was ticketing it for parking illegally. Then it would park from one side of the street to the other side of the street, again on a yellow line where they shouldn't have been parking, so you couldn't see if you were coming down West Street to turn left or right. There's been many accidents at that intersection. I don't want to see a four-way stop sign go in, but if you can't see to pull out in either direction, it's a safety hazard. My opinion is it should not be a variance. If you can't provide it, what is the reason we have these rules and always give variances? I understand the variance on the other one. It makes sense. It was a 2-unit. Somebody left the lapse back to a single. I can understand that one. That makes sense. In this case, it's always been a single-family home. You could look back at your records. It's never been an apartment. If I understand correctly, in the early 90s, the codes were changed so that you couldn't keep taking single-family homes and making them multi-use, multi-unit dwellings if you couldn't provide enough parking because of the parking situation. So we're not going to help the situation by allowing more cars. You and I both know that 1.5 cars per unit, if there's 2 people living in there, they're going to have 4 cars. It's not going to stop at 3, so that's why I'm not in favor of having this turned into 2 units. I have the same issue with other homes on either side of me. If they want to convert these, are you going to give variances for that as well? And neither of them can provide off-street parking. So there's a house already for sale next to it that's being remodeled right now as we speak. It's always been a single family, so is that person going to come in too and ask for a variance so that they can turn it into 2 apartments? I don't know what their game plan is with it, but it's just going to get worse. There isn't enough parking for the people that do live there now. That's my concern. You're welcome.
Good night, everyone. My name is Nadiuska Moscate Scroggins. I'm the wife of Francisco Scroggins. And we have the apartment that we have, they had 2 big parking lot, so we can make the lease with that agreement that they can have 1 car for each apartment. But the thing is, in that block, all people have their own parking lot, but they use it for keep trash and keeping too many things. They not use the garage, and then they park in the street. So it's not a problem that, it's not fair that that's affect to us. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, so I think we're right, so, yeah.
And just to add another point, I know, if it comes to be a conversation that would need to have at the time that he's signing like the residential leases, then that's something that I'm sure they'll be able to do. And whether it's a conversation that can be had, and if he's limited, then they can go ahead and do that also. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public that would like to address this case? Any further commissioner questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion for the definition of variance?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to the definition of a multifamily conversion from a different use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002A for the property located at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue in the RS2 zoning district.
Second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Nay.
Velez,
Aye.
Burgos,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for the dimensional variance?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a dimensional variance for multifamily conversion from a different use found in section 1304.01-1.02 .002 to include conversion of a single-family home into 2 units for the property located at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue in the RS2 zoning district.
I second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez,
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have a motion for special exception?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to waive the special exception provision that the property must be vacant for 2 years found in section 1311.11C1 for the property located at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I second.
Further discussion?
Didn't they say that the property has been vacant for 2 years?
No, it's saying that they needed a variance because it hasn't been.
But I'm saying,
Special,
didn't they say that it has been, though?
It was the last property, I think.
what'd you say?
Said 2021 is when they bought it.
Okay.
So it has not.
So,
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Do we have a motion for the variance of minimum number of parking spaces?
I make a motion to recommend approval of a variance to the required off-street parking spaces found in section 1304.01-1.02.002 for the property located at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Nay.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Did you record my nay?
I did.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for a special exception to allow multifamily?
I make a motion to approve a special exception to allow multifamily uses defined in section 1304.01-1.02 for the property at 602 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Velez.
Aye.
Burgos, Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, folks. Miss Jessica Fieldhouse.
I think we're going to have Director Luxon come up first and just talk a little bit about staff's work on the plan,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I am very excited about the comprehensive plan. We've been working on it for quite a while, I believe since 2019, when our former city planner was here. COVID happened, and then our former city planner, he left. So then we ended up bringing C.S. Davison on board to take the lead to continue to help us while we were in transition to get this comp plan done. We have put in a lot of time, a lot of hours. Our residents have put in a lot of work. Our stakeholders, we've had many, many workshops and meetings, and we're not done yet because we want to make sure that we hear from the public. So with that said, I'm just excited to be here, excited to hear what you all have to say about the comp plan, and that's it for me. So Jessica, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here. I don't really have a format for how we want to have this conversation, so it sort of depends on the feedback from the Planning Commission. What I will say is we do have a public open house scheduled for July 9th over on that side, the Santander side of the building. That public open house will be advertised in a number of different forums and formats, including traditional newspaper all the way over to social media. My thought process with how we move forward, if the Planning Commission feels comfortable and would like to recommend to move the comprehensive plan to council this evening, you can. I was not counting on that. My thought process was first to hear some comments. If comments are relatively minor, not very substantive, then I think that we can hold to the schedule of perhaps in July, getting a recommendation to move the plan to council and ask for council's permission to formally send it to the County Planning Commission and to set up an adoption schedule. If, however, comments are more substantive, which is completely fine, what we might want to do is schedule a work session where we can sort of sit around the table and talk through comments. So it really just depends on where the Planning Commission is with the comprehensive plan.
Jessica, would you be wanting to have the Planning Commission submit their review in writing to you on the comprehensive plan that was submitted to them?
That would be helpful if you want to mark up the plan and give it to staff to scan, and they can send it to me. We can do it that way. You can Microsoft Word, track comments, just tell me where you want to see changes. Those things are easy to do. It's the more substantive areas of the plan that I'm looking for Planning Commission feedback on. So, for example, a new recommendation in the comprehensive plan is to allow by right conversions of single-family to multifamily. Obviously, we know that this is happening throughout the city and that we're getting variances to do such things. That is a change that I would want the Planning Commission to be comfortable with. It's something that I would want to talk about if the Planning Commission felt that they wanted to also have that conversation. So I'm really just looking for sort of feedback from all four of you and your two missing compatriots, kind of where we stand and how much review would you like to do? Where do you think we are? The ball's sort of in your court.
Well, now that you mentioned it, what's the idea of conversion by right throughout the city?
Well, it's really where land use is going, and so I'm not sure if the Planning Commission is aware of this, but currently right now in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, there is draft legislation that has been floated that will change the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. So just like the state changed the MPC, I want to say around 2005, 2006, to make agriculture a use permitted by right in all zones. And the reason that that was done was because we need to preserve our agricultural land, because that is such a huge component of our economic development and the character of our communities. Similar thought process, completely different use. What the Pennsylvania General Assembly is thinking of doing is mandating in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code that we can no longer have single-family only districts, meaning that in the city's RS1 and RS2 zoning districts, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes would be permitted by right. All of the same parking applies, all of the same parking requirements. The other bill that is up before the General Assembly is to allow by right in your commercial and mixed-use areas, mixed-use developments with commercial and 5 or more residential units. And in those areas, they're limiting the required parking to 1 space per unit. So the thought process here is that this is a comprehensive plan for the city for the next 20 years. You can see in the plan, we are very much talking about increasing density. We are very much talking about increasing access to mixed-use developments. This is in line with the county's planning efforts in terms of their comprehensive plan. This is also in line with the recommendations from the York County Economic Alliance. In order to make our cities thriving, in order to make them walkable, in order to increase access to transportation, we have to have the right amount of density. We have to hit a tipping point, and we just aren't there yet. Couple into that the fact that the nation has a massive housing shortage, both in terms of access to housing and access to appropriate and affordable housing. So in a nutshell, that is where that recommendation comes from. And also because when I did stakeholder interviews with staff, we know that staff are bringing these variances to the Planning Commission and to the Zoning Hearing Board. Some people may have different opinions on this, but if you consistently have variances going before the Planning Commission and the Zoning Hearing Board, it is indicative of an issue with your ordinance. Because we should not be constantly entertaining variances for the same thing. If we are, and they're getting approved, then that's an indication that we need to change the ordinance, so that way you guys are not working so hard on things that should just be done as a matter of course.
Going back to what you said a little earlier, if the legislation is mandating one parking space, how does that compare to the 0.5 parking spaces in the overlay?
Well, the overlay is I think, dead in the water. It doesn't sound like it'll get approved. It doesn't sound as though it's the effort in order to get the overlay approved is going to be worth more than I guess it's worth more than the two. The bite is worth more than the chew at this point. So obviously the overlay in mixed use areas, it would not impact the municipality, can obviously go lower. I think the way the ordinance legislation reads is that you cannot go more. So it's a maximum requirement of one space per unit, not a minimum requirement of one space per unit.
Okay.
So as it stands now, we're probably looking at adoption of the comprehensive plan by City Council in October. And that includes the July 9th public open house, an introduction of the comprehensive plan to City Council July 16th. We would be asking for, in August, permission to send the plan to the County Planning Commission and to schedule a public hearing, and that public hearing would most likely occur in October.
So your open house, is that more or less to serve as the commission's hearing?
It's to serve as the commission's public meeting.
Okay, that's the first I heard that, so that's why I'm wondering.
Well, it's the first, absolutely, it is the first you heard it, because after last month's meeting, we had said that we wanted to schedule additional public feedback opportunities. So as a result of our conversation in May, we went back and scheduled the public open house.
Okay. So who will be the host for this open house?
The city will, and we've already established, we'll have staff volunteering. Obviously, it's the Planning Commission's document. We would love to have all of the commission there helping us, volunteering and talking with residents. But I think at this point, we're fully staffed and we have the event covered. And essentially what we'll do, it'll be an open house from 6 to 8, and we'll have just areas set up that will go over the different chapters of the comprehensive plan. And just like the comprehensive plan is set up, I imagine that every group of individuals that are going to help walk people through the plan are going to have 2 poster-sized documents. One is going to talk about what the problem statement is, and the other is going to talk about the high-level suggestions we're making in the comprehensive plan.
That sounds good.
And what time on July 9th?
6 to 8 p.m.
And that's here at the old Santander Bank?
It is, right? Yes.
Someone pointed out to me that we might have to have an edit to the acknowledgements page under
That's
the
entirely
commission.
possible. If it's easy things like that, if you found a typo, if something didn't make sense, if something needs to be changed, those documents can be sent to staff and staff can give them to me. What I really want to make sure, though, is that the Planning Commission is comfortable with the larger thoughts and ideas that are expressed in the comprehensive plan. So for instance, the future land use map identifies essentially residential areas and mixed-use areas. That's a change. And what we're doing is trying to set up the city to go from a Euclidean land use-based zoning ordinance to a form-based code zoning ordinance. And the difference here is that our traditional zoning ordinance is Euclidean-based. It separates land uses, which we know is disastrous to, and that sounds like hyperbole, but it's really not. That separation of land uses is disastrous for our urban fabric and urban environments. So what the comprehensive plan is seeking to do is to set the city up for moving to a form-based code zoning regulation, which essentially is not so much concerned, we're absolutely regulating land uses, but think of it more as an equal squares. So first, we're concerned with the form, the relationship of the building to the street, and we want to make sure that there's pedestrian scale and we're maintaining that fabric. So very much, these ordinances are going to stipulate, a lot like the overlay did, we're going to be concerned with where that building sits on the lot, what the maximum width and length of that building is. We want to be concerned with where that building is going to show up in terms of the street. There are build-to lines. We want to make sure that there's fenestration, so meaning we've got a little bit of, because again, a walkable neighborhood requires an interesting walk. And so in order to get that interesting walk, you've got to have changes in the frontage and have the buildings move a little bit. We want to have a good relationship between the curb, the street trees, which are incredibly important, the sidewalk, the pedestrian area, and then, you know, the sort of front porch, but it's not really a front porch, it's the dooryard area, which could be benches, it could actually be a little fenced-in yard, it could be a porch built up. The other thing the form-based code is going to do is it's going to start regulating more from a design standpoint. If we've got multifamily structures going in, those structures are going to be pedestrian scale. It's going to include regulations like we want to make sure that the first floor is built up about 5-6 feet, so that way those folks who are sitting in their living room on the sidewalk are not looking directly at people in the eyeball walking by. They're up looking down, if that makes sense. So the form-based code is very much concerned with what the built environment is and what that built environment, that relationship is to the street. Then comes in specific land uses, then comes in administration and management.
Do you have any ideas how the variable frontage would work, say for like an infill construction among these row homes that we have now? Would it still be frontage the same as before, or are you suggesting they could also have a setback?
No. So the setbacks, the fenestration we're talking about is not a setback. No, we're doing build-to lines. So the thought process, and what we want to do is we want to maintain uniformity. So like, in essence, if we're in Springdale or Devers or Fireside, whatever we come up with in that form-based code, it's going to support a front yard because essentially we want to maintain that fabric. But as we move into the more dense mixed-use areas, then we're getting into regulations that are going to dictate the size of that structure and where that structure is located. It's going to dictate where the parking is going to be. So if it's a multifamily unit, it's going to dictate that they're rear-loaded and not front-loaded. And the significance there is that means that we're not doing garage townhouses where you pull in the garage and then the townhouse, which from a pedestrian standpoint is bad because essentially the pedestrian, the children, the grandparents are walking actually down a row of driveway aprons instead of sidewalk. So the form-based code would stipulate that multifamily units need to be rear loading, which means the parking comes in off an alley. And that way you don't get that interrupted. Everything about the form-based code is trying to make that pedestrian space more comfortable, which is why form-based codes are so important for an urbanized area. It means that we're mandating on-street parking for both traffic calming purposes and for safeguarding the pedestrian. But that's like, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of form-based code, which is not the intent of the comprehensive plan. The intent of the comprehensive plan is just to give the city the breathing room and the option of going in that direction. And it also suggests that we do so.
Anyone else have questions?
I've got tons of them, but I left my packet at home.
We have time.
And you said you're comfortable with pushing this off until next month, correct?
I am comfortable with getting, I was not looking for a recommendation. What I would be hopeful is that most of the planning commission has at this point read through a large portion of it. And what I would like between now and our next meeting is for comments to start coming in. If you've got large questions, if you're not sure of something, if you are just straight up against something else, those are the things that I want to know, because at the end of the day, this is your document. You guys have to be comfortable with it. You have to be able to stand up in support of it and in defense of it.
Just a little timeline for you. The next Planning Commission meeting is July 8th, and the City Council doesn't go back till the 16th. So I'm pretty sure, and I can be corrected if need be, but I think if you got your, if you marked it up and we scanned it into Jessica, or if everybody got together and sent me the review of the comp plan, as long as I got the resolution or bill format into Diana by Wednesday at noon.
We're not looking, though, for anything to be approved. So the way that the schedule should go is that we'll meet up again and discuss this July
Okay.
at that meeting. Hopefully, I get the comments a week, 2 weeks beforehand. That way I can make the changes. Because what I would like to do in the perfect world is then give that comprehensive plan document to City Council on their
16th.
July 16th meeting, just to introduce it to them, essentially give them the same opportunity the Planning Commission had.
Okay.
So essentially, they'll have it for a month, and then in August, we're looking for approval from City Council to send that to the County Planning Commission and to set up the hearing. So if we already have built in a delay to July, we could certainly do the same thing if we ran into issues, because at the end of the day, I cannot, and I would not want to make the Planning Commission rush this choice,
Gotcha.
this
I guess it
review.
would be better stated to say that, to have them put on the agenda just for their review.
At the July 8th meeting.
It's 16th, at the 16th, yeah. So, yeah, so if we wanted to do that, I would still need to probably by noon on July 10th, have it to Diana to say we would like to be on the July 16th agenda for the review.
Okay, our meeting is on the 8th and your open house is on the 9th.
On the 9th.
Is there going to be an opportunity to incorporate any possible changes that are mentioned or brought up on the 9th?
Mm-hmm.
So,
We could delay and go through feedback that we collected at the open house, and then review that at the August meetings. Again, the schedule is whatever we want to make it so that everybody's comfortable.
well, I would like to try and stick to your August, so we can at least have something before the end of the year. Anyway, so if necessary, if there is sufficient changes that come up at the open house, we could always schedule a work session 2 weeks from our meeting. So I think that's an opportunity, and just in case there's something from the public that you want to adopt.
Okay. So why don't we proactively then set up a work session? What are you thinking, the
22nd, I believe that would be.
of July? And I take my family vacation the 23rd through the. Oh, no. It's the 27th. So that would work. The week of the 23rd.
Am I right on the date?
Okay, hold on. You wanted a work session, okay, let me look.
2 weeks from our meeting.
2 weeks.
From
From July's
8th.
meeting, right? July's meeting,
Should be the 22nd.
yes.
Yeah. That works for me.
We could,
How do you, I'm sorry, how would you,
Could it not be Monday? Could it be
is that, what day of the week is that?
It's Monday.
A Monday?
Not be on the 22nd, like maybe Tuesday or Wednesday?
I'm flexible that week. If, as long as we have a place to meet and discuss. I mean, we could probably meet across the street if this room itself was in
Actually, that's almost probably in correspondence. We could have that as our, what we normally, our informational session. It will be just a work session. Then in place of the, I don't know, the next week, the fourth Monday, like we usually have it. I think it would fall in July, if not June. We could just postpone that until July 22nd. How's that? At 6 o'clock, like we normally meet.
Something was mentioned about a Monday is,
Yeah, that's the 22nd, isn't it?
yeah, but not having it on a Monday.
Hold on, I'm looking. Sorry.
Corey, how do you feel?
I'm just saying, right, I'm just saying, since this is such a big, because our next meeting would have been,
Any?
It may be too that we don't, we can schedule a meeting and not even have to hold it, so.
That's what I'm thinking. We might as well proactively schedule it. If we don't get a whole lot of feedback at the open house, there may not be a big reason for us to meet. And if that's the case, we can cancel it. That week, I'm flexible. The only night that doesn't work for me is Wednesday, the 24th.
How about Tuesday?
I don't know what.
July 23rd at 6 PM.
Okay, so now that's going to be city council meeting.
We can,
City council.
we don't have to. What time do they start?
Could we?
Wait, no, it's not.
If this room was in use, could we?
No, it's not,
And we don't
because
have
it would be the
to meet in this room.
30th. No.
No, but
we
it would
wouldn't
be
have it.
easier if we met over there. That way, if the public wanted to be in attendance, we wouldn't have to funnel them upstairs, because that would be difficult. But over there, if we wanted to have a work session, that would work.
So that wouldn't be a city council meeting that night, because they'll only have the 16th in July. That'll be their only meeting in July,
Oh,
because
okay,
that's
so
the
then we
third
can
one,
be in here.
third Tuesday.
The
So
23rd.
23rd
Okay.
of July, you want us, hold on,
Pencil it in,
Yeah,
at what time?
6.
6.
6. July 23rd at 6. I'll send out, I'll send out a meeting invitation to all of you. We can have it, I'll just put it for, up in Pulo.
As a work session, does it have to be advertised?
No.
Good.
So now I'll just put it up in Pulo, and then if we foresee that we don't need it, then I'll just cancel it.
Are we open in this room?
I don't know. I would have to look, it's not a city council meeting, but I would have to look on the calendar
It
upstairs.
usually is a city council meeting, though, isn't it?
No, it wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be.
It would have been, July 16th is the third
Okay.
Tuesday of the month. It would have been, if they would have came back earlier, it would have been the
My
first.
preference would be to meet in here if it's open.
Okay, all right,
If not, across the way.
Yeah.
hold on. But this is just with us. I mean, with work session.
Work sessions, I would feel uncomfortable not at least advertising it 24 hours beforehand. Are you sure that we don't need to advertise a work session?
If it's a, if it's some sort of well, first of all, okay, hold on, let me see. First of all, we don't advertise anything for planning because it's not a quasi judicial setting, it's not a hearing. So I don't have to advertise anything for planning. That came from the solicitor. I don't have to advertise at all for planning. I mean, we put in for the meetings, we put it in, I put it in the newspaper that the planning commission is there, but I don't have to
I
advertise.
don't
anything.
have to, but I'd rather err on the side of caution, and advertising stuff is the better way to do it, so that way we are being transparent.
Oh, so then now it doesn't, so, okay. All right.
Because there's nothing that we would discuss at a work session that we wouldn't want the public to be.
So
Part
I
of.
guess my question then would be to you is what if we decide that it's not necessary?
Then we just put a sign up on the door.
Okay. because
We would probably make that decision before July 23rd.
Yeah, I would think.
right, but what I'm saying.
We can make it-
is
we can make it
if
the
we're
next
gonna
day after the open
advertise it
house.
2 Sundays before, so if we advertise, I have to have the advertisement in towards the beginning of July.
Well, actually, we would probably have a decision on having a meeting prior or quickly following the open house, so you wouldn't have to
Yeah.
even advertise it at that point.
So by July 9th, we're gonna figure out if we're gonna meet or not.
Yeah,
And you'll have more than enough time to advertise.
I think so.
That works.
And that's 2 weeks, so.
Does anybody have any preliminary feedback at all?
Not overwhelming. Let me make my notes.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll be adjourned.
I've got through a good portion of it, but not its entirety.
Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Is there any further business?
No.
Any comments? We stand adjourned.